Welcome, 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 everyone. Tonight is not just any night, it's a journey into inspiration and resilience. Imagine it's December 9th, 2023. You are settling into your favorite spot, ready for an experience that transcends the ordinary. And we are in for a treat. Patricia Loff, a health transformation expert, is with us, ready to unfold her incredible story on how I reversed cancer. This is not just a session, it's a conversation among friends. Picture that you're sitting in a cozy living room discussing something profoundly impactful. And Patricia's journey isn't just about overcoming cancer, it's a roadmap of practical strategies, some insights, and lifestyle changes. So, what do you think? And friends, it's really true that we can reverse any disease. The only we need to believe that we can do it. So before I hand over the stage to Patricia, as a ritual, let me give some introduction about, or let me talk about Patricia a little bit, and then I'll hand over the stage to her. Right? So Patricia is a healing expert who was able to reverse cancer diagnosis after being given 3 to 6 months to live, more than 20 years ago. After her dramatic recovery, she has been able to help hundreds of others reverse their own health challenges. A 30-year student of Buddhism and a 10-year student of traditional Chinese medicine, Patricia offers healing mastery programs online and shares her message of healing and disease reversal in keynotes and conferences. So without any delay, just welcome Patricia and just type welcome Patricia in the chat. And Patricia, wonderful. It's so great to have you in the show. And stage is all yours now.
Thank you so much, Prashant, and thank you so much for having me. As Prashant has said, I was able to reverse disease after I was given 3 to 6 months to live, and that was more than 20 years ago. And so I'll just give you a little bit of the backstory about how I went through the conventional medicine system like so many other people do, and I was frustrated by the conventional medical system like so many other people are as well. And I was kind of forced into um, finding a different way in order to survive. So it was after a few years of what most people go through, the chemical interventions and the surgical interventions, that it kind of dawned on me that conventional medicine might not hold the key or to the results that I want. And so I started, like a lot of people do, looking for alternatives, complementary therapies, and I tried everything, and nothing really worked. I did get some, um, maybe I was able to get some lack of suffering in some areas, but it was only temporary, or it wasn't enough. Like, it wasn't enough to do what I wanted to do, and that was to completely reverse my disease situation. So I continued on that path of research, and while using conventional medicine as well. And then it just came to be one morning I woke up from quite a major surgery, and I could feel the life draining out of my body. And I knew instantly I would never have another surgery. I wouldn't have another surgery because I knew I wouldn't survive another surgery. So fast forward a few months, and the doctors were telling me that I needed to have more surgery because the tumors had grown back. And if I didn't have more surgery, that would be it for me. A few months after that, they said that if I didn't have more surgery, I would only have a few months to live, 3 to 6 months to live. And at that time, I wasn't surprised by what they told me, and I wasn't scared by what they told me. After so many years of trying absolutely everything, I was content that there was nothing left. And so I hit this moment of surrender, for lack of anything else I could call it. Not giving up, but an acceptance that I did everything that I could do in order to save my own life. I didn't just rely on somebody else. I did everything that I could at the time do, And I put all the effort that I could do. I changed my diet as much as I could change it. And even after 8 years on a strictly clean macrobiotic diet, my health still failed. I used to be an athlete, so movement wasn't a stranger to me. So I did all the things that, we were supposed to do. Plus, I went above and beyond the call of duty, I felt, by doing research into what cancer is and learning to read medical research. Tried all the complementary stuff that they encourage us to try. Okay, sorry, I think my internet just buzzed out for a second. So by the time I got that message that I had 3 to 6 months to live, I was fully content that I had exhausted all other possibilities. So I accepted the prognosis, and um, I accepted that my life would end in 3 to 6 months. I was comfortable with that after all of the effort that I put in over the years. And then, if you don't think the universe doesn't have a sense of humor, 2 weeks to the day after I got that prognosis, I received a package in the mail of some fairly recent research at the time from a neuroscientist by the name of Candace Pert. She had just completed some research in the last few years, or the previous few years, that detailed this chemical process that goes on in the body that I knew nothing about. And so she outlined in her research what this chemical process is and how impactful on the body it is. And I got to page 3 and I thought, I might not be out of possibilities after all. And I started to play around with some of the concepts that she talked about. And within 3 weeks, I could feel a difference in my body. Doctors still wanted me to go ahead with a surgery that I knew I wouldn't survive. And I wanted to have a scan to see if I was right, to see if this feeling in my body was really, would really be shown in medical tests. So I had a scan, and for the first time in my, entire illness life, the tumors had shown a little tiny bit of shrinkage. And this was significant to me because that was the first time they'd shown something other than rapid growth. The doctors were trying to convince me that this tiny little bit of shrinkage that was showing on the test was due to, it was in the margin of the error that is built into the machine. I didn't really care about the error of the machine. I could feel in my body something different, and the tests were different than they'd ever been. So I was super excited. And I continued on this path of playing around with this information from Dr. Pert. And we continued to have scans and confirm that what I was feeling and what I was doing was having a real impact. And it was about 18 months later, not 3 to 6 months, but 18 months later, that I was completely tumor-free and completely disease-free. And ever since then, my health has improved, not deteriorated as the years have gone by. So then people started to ask me how I did that. And that's what I've been doing ever since. And I went on to, I had been studying Buddhism for about 10 years before that. And the reason is significant, which we'll get into in just a second. And then I went on to study traditional Chinese medicine as well, so that I wanted to be sure that I was delivering the best possible information. So here's the information that we should be taught in kindergarten. What Candace Pert had outlined in her research was the tremendous chemical impact we have every time we respond to the things in our everyday lives. And so this sounds like it's really a minute thing, but this increase or this response that we have, it makes up the atmosphere of chemicals in our body. And so why is that significant? So every time we respond to something in our everyday lives, so say my husband walks in the room and I love him to death. So my response then is this big sweeping feeling of love in my body. That produces a chemical. Even one thought or one feeling about my love for my husband, produces a chemical, and the chemical travels through the body to find an appropriate receptor site on an appropriate cell, and it docks onto that receptor site and it deposits information into the cell. That information that's deposited into the cell influences how the cell operates and how it replicates. This process goes on all the time within the human body, all the time. So we're talking about hundreds of thousands of times a day. Whether it's a mental response to our everyday lives, whether it's an emotional response, and there's a connection between the two, obviously, because we're not as compartmentalized as conventional medicine would have us believe. This happens tens, hundreds of thousands of times a day. This is why it overrides our ability to reverse disease with diet and exercise, because it's far more powerful. So if you have stuff going on in your thoughts or your emotions, and most of this happens subconsciously, by the way, so we don't even know that we're doing something, this chemical process is happening in the body. So then it comes to, how do we harness this? First of all, who's responsible for how we respond to our everyday lives? It's not the doctor. It's not the surgical table. And it's not a pharmaceutical company. How we respond to our everyday lives is really up to us. And we can harness that ability to make the chemicals that best support our cells and the replication of our cells. And so there's certain rules by which this whole response mechanism works. Rules like the body will respond to the words and the pictures you give it. And so how can we prove this without studying for 10 years like I did? You can just test yourself a little bit. So if my body responds to the pictures and the words that I give it, then how can I prove that? Well, there's really a simple little test. If you take the line at the bottom of your palm, the first major line at the bottom of your palm, or the last major line at the top of your wrist, and match it to the same line on the other hand, and put your hands together for just a second, it will, on most people, appear as if the fingers on one hand are shorter than the fingers on the other hand. So for me, my right fingers appear to be shorter than my left fingers. And so then if you raise that hand with the shorter fingers way up in the air, and just take a deep breath and close your eyes and hold your hand way up in the air and close your eyes. And now I want you to imagine that your fingers that are held up in the air are growing and growing and growing. Your fingers just keep growing and growing and growing way up into the sky. You can feel them piercing the ceiling of your building that you're in, and really raising right through the ceiling, right through the roof, way out into the air. You can feel the difference in temperature between the inside and the outside as your fingers just keep growing and growing and growing. Your fingers are growing way up into the sky. You can feel the air getting colder. You can see your fingers growing and growing, and they just keep growing way out into the atmosphere. They're piercing the atmosphere. You can feel the pressure of the atmosphere on your fingers as they grow way out into the universe. They're reaching the stars. They just keep growing and growing way out into the blackness of the universe. And now I just want you to take another deep breath and lower your hand and match those two lines up again on your hands and put your fingers together. And now my right fingers appear to be longer than my left fingers. And so you can test yourself on these things all the time. And then when it comes to important things, or more severe things, I would say, more impactful things, like when you have a diagnosis of anything, how can you use that to impact your body? So we use things. When I started to study traditional Chinese medicine, I wasn't really interested in the things that we usually learn about in terms of traditional Chinese medicine. And that is acupuncture, Tui Na, which is a massage thing, or cupping, or moxibustion, all those things. Those things I wasn't as interested in as when I got to the study of Qigong. So there are 5 branches of traditional Chinese medicine. There are 5 branches of Qigong. So Qigong is one of the 5 branches of traditional Chinese medicine, and in itself, it has 5 branches as well. And the 5 branches of Qigong are super interesting for me. Most people think Qigong is just this beautiful movement that we have, and the breath that we incorporate into the movement, and they believe, most people believe, that it's an exercise, a physical exercise routine, which it is, but it's also about how do we use our intention, how do we use our attention, how do we use visualization, and how do we use our imagination in order to affect the body? Because remember, the body responds to the pictures and the words we use it. That's why athletes, for instance, use imagination and visualization in order to reach peak performance. We can do that in our everyday lives as well. So that's the part that really intrigued me, because what I learned from Dr. Candace Pert and her work is that treating disease at the end is missing the whole machine that caused the disease to begin with. And that whole machine, or a major part of that whole machine, is how we're responding to the stimulus in our everyday lives. How do we respond in our everyday lives? What is our emotional state? What are our emotional habits? What is our mental state and our mental habits? And then how does that impact our energy, the energy blockages in the body? And then how can we release all of that in order to proceed in way better health than we could ever expect? So those were the kinds of things that interested me. Like, don't start at the end while you're still pouring in the ingredients of disease. So if I'm going for chemotherapy, for instance, maybe it kills cancer cells, maybe it doesn't. But if I'm still pouring in the ingredients that make the disease, which is maybe not the healthiest mental habits, maybe not the healthiest emotional habits, then it's highly likely that cancer will come back. That's why there is such a thing as remission. For me, remission is not a win, because remission is literally the expectation that cancer will come back. So I aim for reversal, not remission. And we can do that by starting where disease starts, not where it ends. I mean, by the time we get cancer, it's really the body just saying, please, just listen. So those are the kinds of things that I look at when I'm looking to help somebody to reverse disease, and it's certainly what I did. And one of the things that I started with, before I even knew all of this other stuff about traditional Chinese medicine, was I started to watch my thoughts. So if I'm responding to my surroundings and my life, really, with mental habits that are programmed, usually between the ages of 0 and 7, what are those responses, and can I determine whether they're healthy or not? So I started to watch my thoughts, and I was a little bit shocked to discover that I had so much negative thinking happening. And I think this is typical of a lot of people, simply because of the way the mind is wired. It's not anybody's fault. The mind is wired for protection and to watch out for danger and to notice things that are, wrong. It's not wired for joy yet, or to look for happiness and all that kind of stuff. But that doesn't mean it can't be. So I was shocked at how much negative thinking I had going on. And it's really just so automatic because it's been programmed in. So then I started to stop my negative thinking. So I would notice a thought, and then I would stop it. And I would notice it and stop it and notice it and stop it. And some days I was just sitting there watching my thoughts saying, no, 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 no. And that went on for thousands of times every day. Just because I wanted to harness this ability of how I responded to my everyday life. I didn't want to respond in the same way that was producing the results that I didn't want. I did that, like I said before, I did that for about 3 weeks, and I could notice a difference in my body. And many of my clients noticed in about 3 weeks. This past year, we've been getting people notice in about 1 week. So it is a worthwhile practice. If you do nothing else, simply watch what it is that you're thinking, and then tell that thought no, because you're in charge. You're not your thoughts. You have thoughts. You are not thoughts. So if you can get to a place where you can identify what the flavor of your mental habits are, and if you can get to where you notice the negative connotations of any thoughts, then you can get to a place where you can stop them. And then when you get to a place where you can stop them, you can get to a place where you can stop them before the thought completes. So if I say, gosh, that's an ugly dress, or I notice somebody is repeatedly wearing ugly dresses, or I notice repeatedly that, ugly clothes or some other negative habit that I might have had, then I can stop it before it gets to the end of the sentence or the end of the thought. For instance, boy, that's an ugly dress. And then I notice that, boy, that's an ugly, stop, boy, stop. And then you can get to a place where you can feel the negative thought coming before the thought actually forms. And then you stop it. And the more you can do that and the more you practice it, the more significance you have on your chemistry in your body. And so how does the body respond to negative versus positive thinking? If I'm having perpetually negative thoughts, and I think scientists have determined that most people have, so we have about 5% conscious thinking. Most people on here are going to know this anyway. 5% conscious thinking, 95% subconscious thinking. And of that 95%, about 70% of that is automatically wired to be negative, just for our protection from thousands of years ago. So if we have these negative thoughts, they're producing chemicals that have negative, they're negatively flavored. They go attached to the cell of the body. They deposit information into the cell of the body, and that information will be also negatively flavored. So here's the trick. One of the tricks that I learned from both Buddhism and traditional Chinese medicine. When you're stopping a thought, most people think that they should replace it with something positive. You don't do that. And you don't do that for a couple of reasons. You don't replace a negative thought pattern that really comes from your subconscious, that you've just raised the awareness into your consciousness. So you don't replace that negative thought with a positive thought, because while you're in a conscious, regular brainwave state, that positive thought won't penetrate the subconscious. So it's kind of a waste of time. And the other thing too is you're just replacing one kind of noise with another kind of noise. And really what we're aiming for is a complete extraction of the negative thinking, or a complete elimination. It's never going to be 100% elimination, but an elimination of that particular thought or that particular thought pattern. And then what happens is you leave a space in the subconscious mind. So you've raised the consciousness of this negative thought pattern or thought. And so now you have a blank space. You want that blank space, because then what happens is your true nature has the opportunity to percolate upwards. And your true nature is the nature of joy, peace, calm, non-resistance, beauty, love, unconditional love. And those chemicals, the chemicals produced from that kind of response, which is our true nature, our serotonin, melatonin, oxytocin, all of the good stuff. And those chemicals also travel to the cells of the body and drop information into the cell, and also influence the cell how to operate and replicate. And so when this happens, then the cell learns to operate at an elevated level. And when the cell operates at an elevated level, it reproduces at an elevated level instead of the opposite from negative thinking. So it seems like we're almost programmed to build disease in our body. And I think, if you get into all the metaphysics and stuff, I think that's the universe's way of saying, if you suffer enough, you'll find a way out of it. And so it's a way, I think it's a way to elevate consciousness, ultimately. And when we do that, we end up being happier human beings and more fulfilled human beings, really. And I know this is just like a ton of information being dumped into your brains this morning or this evening. And I hope it makes some sense. But really, if you take away nothing else, take away that we have more power within ourselves before we go and seek advice from the medical profession, which they're really good at. We have more power than that. We have more power to influence the cause of disease than the medical community has to influence the end of disease. And so I hope that makes sense. And then if you really want to, move the dial on your own health, watch your negative thinking. There's a lot of other strategies as well, but watch your negative thinking patterns and see if you can stop them, and then see what your body feels like after doing that for a little while. So you want to do that, while you're doing laundry, while you're brushing your teeth, while you're taking a walk, while you're talking with your friends. You can get so good at it that you can do it all the time. And the more you do it, the better the results you get. And I'm just going to watch my time here for a second. And the more the results that you get, the more you can't unsee what you're seeing and unfeel what you're feeling. And so if you're in a medical situation, you can also have this process tracked by medical results, which then makes it even more real and even more, you're unable to ignore that this is a fact. So that's what I did for about the first 18 months. I tracked what I was doing and compared it to the medical testing results that I was getting. And it certainly proved to be true. And it proves to be true with a lot of people that I work with as well. So what kind of results can you get from this? This works for everything from chronic disease, acute diseases, even stage 4 cancer. I've had several people just this past year come out of stage 4 cancer by doing these practices and the strategies that I teach in my programs. And I can tell you there's nothing more thrilling for me to see somebody come into a program with stage 4 cancer and really being at the end of their hope rope, and then seeing them sometime later starting to get results and then getting the all clear from cancer. There's nothing more thrilling to me than that. And so I hope that's clear. And if anybody has any questions, I think I'm ready to take some questions. And if there's anything I can clear up, I'd be happy to do so. If we're on the right time. I'm not sure if I've got the same time as Prashant does.
Hi.
Hi.
Amazing. That's really great. Good to know a lot about this, how you reversed this disease. So, friends, if you actually have some questions, then please do ask. Just type in, and Patricia will answer.
Yes.
Meanwhile, I've got some questions, so let me ask.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first question, which is here, is like, what exactly inspired you to explore methods for reversing this disease?
I wasn't getting answers from. I wasn't getting the answers I wanted from the conventional medical community. I was sitting in my doctor's office one day, and I thought that as we tried different things, we would eventually hit on the right thing that worked. And so I told him, I was sitting on the table like a lot of us do, and I said, I'm kind of excited because we're like on our 12th thing that we're going to try to see if we can reverse what was going on in my body. And he said, well, why are you excited? And I said, because this is, we're trying so many things, and this might be the thing that actually works and makes me better. And he looked at me really shocked, and he said, you're not getting any better. You're not going to get better. I was shocked at that. I thought, like, why are we doing all this stuff if I'm not going to get better? And he just said, we're the best we can do is manage what's going on. We can't
Yeah.
reverse it. I was devastated because I was such a medical junkie and a science junkie that I just put all of my hopes and dreams really in the miracle of science, and the miracle of science wasn't there for me. So that's what started me on my quest to look at alternatives, because that was the big thing back then. And so I did all the oils and lotions and potions. And again, I think what a lot of people don't realize too is most of the complementary and alternative world also starts at the end of disease, not at the cause of disease. So it wasn't until I hit on uh, Dr. Candace Pert's work about the whole chemical process that we self-produce in our own bodies, that has such a tremendous influence on how our bodies operate, that it really was the answer for me.
That's amazing.
Thank
Friends,
you.
don't you believe that? Don't you think that it's a miracle? A lot of people are, struggling to overcome cancer,
Yes,
and it's
it, it
actually a miracle.
yeah, it is a miracle because we are a miracle. So so that is very true. Yeah. And I think we should feel miraculous every day. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a way to
being
live.
human. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
The next question is, what role do you think that nutrition played in your journey to reverse this disease?
I think nutrition is a supporting factor. I don't think it is the be all and end all factor for most of us. I always had a pretty clean diet, and I was raised on a clean diet. I, like most people, thought, well, maybe it's not good enough, and so I cleaned up my diet even more, and so I was on a macrobiotic diet, which at the time was one of the most restrictive and clean diets there was. I was on that for dedicated for 8 years, and in those 8 years, my health declined. So I knew then that it wasn't about diet and exercise. I knew there had to be more to it. I just didn't know what that more was. Is diet important? Yes. I mean, don't go eating junk food. It's not going to serve you in any way whatsoever.
Yeah,
But it may not be enough to reverse something like stage 4 cancer and other things as well.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we have a question here. Please share the name of the book.
The book by Candace Pert. Um, I, Her book is called Molecules of Emotion. Molecules of Emotion.
Okay, molecules of emotions, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So, okay. So, Vandana, I'm sure that you've got the answer. So, friends, do ask if you have any doubts or you want some clarity. We are here to answer this
Yes.
time. You won't get this moment again. It's a miracle too. Yeah, getting Patricia from Canada, it's actually a miracle. So
Yes.
I can't tell you. I can't say much like how I got Patricia on the in the session. So it's a miracle.
Yeah, a little bit.
No,
Yeah.
I contacted a group, and where I was thinking, okay, how people actually reply in that group? So, and fortunately, she replied.
Ah,
So I thought, oh my God, they are real people,
real people. Yes.
right? So then we had a conversation and we decided a date, and now she's here.
Yes. Happy to
Okay,
be here as well.
yeah, it's a miracle for us to have you in the show.
Yeah, I think I've fallen in love with the internet the last few years because we can connect even though you're in Delhi and I'm in Alberta.
Yeah. So Bonnie Love says, Have I told you how proud I am of you?"
That's my sister.
Yes. Okay. Yes. You should be proud of Patricia. Okay. So the next question is, what do you think the lifestyle changes actually contributed to the success in reversing cancer?
It's not as much lifestyle changes as much as it is response changes. How was I responding to my everyday life? Was not healthy because it wasn't producing healthy chemicals, and a lot of that comes from the programming that our minds take on in between the ages of 0 and 7, when our minds are just these absorptive sponges that take in everything without any critical thinking values happening. And so that then just gets inserted as our subconscious mind, and
Yeah.
how our minds run for the rest of our lives if we don't look at them. So when I started looking at mine, it was not very pretty. It was there was a lot of negativity, a lot of fear, and a lot of patterns and habits that I picked up from the world that I grew up in. And so my parents just happened to be addicts. And so the home was violent, the home was very dysfunctional. And that was the way my mind was programmed as I came up. And so I had to really undo a lot of that programming in order to make my chemical atmosphere in my body produce better chemicals that inform my cells how to operate and replicate. So not so much lifestyle changes as much as awareness changes.
Awesome. All right, so we have some comments for you here. Kevin says, amazing transformation.
Thank you,
And
Kevin.
Debbie says, I'm also so very proud of you.
Okay. Oh, that's lovely.
So thank you so much, friends, for sending your messages here, for appreciating. It's actually an appreciation for us, for the guest speaker who actually has got, has given the precious time to come on this stage. So the
Thank
next question is, yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead with the next question.
Okay, so the next question is, can you please highlight any particular holistic practice that was so significant or the wonderful impact on your health transformation?
I think it was just the most significant thing that I did right at the beginning was to start watching my thoughts as a daily practice. And as I watched my thoughts and I noticed negative thinking, I would practice stopping it. And then I would get so good at stopping it that I would notice the feeling that preceded the negative thinking, and I would stop it there so that the negative thought didn't have a chance to form. And I think that was probably the most significant thing that I did in order to change the atmosphere of chemistry in my own body.
Wow. But okay, tell us like how, what exactly was the practice? Because when you think that, when you say to yourself, or you think that, okay, it's a negative thought, I should not think about it. How do you
It's
stop that?
it's not that you shouldn't think about it, because you're going to have negative thoughts from time to time because we're
Yeah.
human. It's especially when there's a pattern of negative thinking. You just tell it no. It's like training a dog. You tell it no. If you tell a puppy to sit for the first time, it's not going to have any idea what you're talking about. So you
Yeah.
might have to tell it to sit like 50 times in order for it to just respond like that. It's the same with your mind. If you tell a negative thought to stop, it might not stop at first. I'd be surprised if it did, in fact. But
Yeah.
if you start to watch it and then tell it to stop and tell it to stop again and tell it to stop again, you remove yourself from believing, first of all, or the attachment to your thoughts. And then you start to take command of what it is that you get to think. And so the more you do that, the easier it becomes. So even if you just sit quietly for a minute just to get into the habit of it, and stop yourself every so often, what am I thinking now? What am I thinking now? You can even set your smartwatch or your cell phone for every 15 or 50 minutes, whatever it is that you want to do, and then just stop yourself and say, what am I thinking now? And if it's a negative thought, then you know that there's negative thinking, or probably a negative thinking habit happening inside you. So that's a raise of awareness. You just raised your awareness. You raise something from the subconscious into the conscious. Then you
Yeah.
have the opportunity to say no or stop. whatever it is. Make it brief, make it commanding, whatever it is. The more you do that, the easier it gets and the more fluid you get at it. So we should have this supple relationship with our mind um, where we can both concentrate and learn and produce good information and um, and have this expansive receiving of good information. So then we get into where does thought come from and all that kind of stuff, which might be another discussion to have. But for now, if you just sit quietly to begin with and start watching your thoughts, then when you're wandering around in your everyday life, eventually it'll just come to you, and then you can practice it while you're grocery shopping, while you're doing your laundry, while you're making your kids lunch, whatever it is. So it's
Yeah.
just a practice, just like anything else.
Basically, it's like divert yourself from that thought, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not that thought, so yeah, and I don't have to have it.
Wonderful, wonderful,
Yeah.
amazing.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a good question now. Can you please ask ma'am what were the specific challenges she faced during the process of reversing this disease, and
Mm,
how did you overcome them?
that's a good question. Um, Specific challenges were, um, first of all, I didn't have any idea if it would work or not. And so I really, I felt like I was treading on untrodden ground, which of course I wasn't, because it has thousands of years of history behind it, both from, Buddhism, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda probably as well.
Yeah.
And so there is a lot of traction behind it that was just lost throughout, especially when conventional medicine started taking over. So there was that. I had no idea whether it would work, and I was just like proceeding ahead.
Yeah.
Then I had the challenge of the healthcare community. So for me, I thought this would just, this new information from Canada's PERT would just sweep the healthcare community. And I was, completely naive that the healthcare community had no interest in making any changes whatsoever. Uh, so I really had a lot of resistance from my team of medical experts, because they believed they were doing exactly what the right thing was for me to do, and so I had to go through like several months of really ignoring their advice so that I could proceed with what I thought was going to be the answer, like get me where I wanted to go. And so that, I think that brings up the other thing too. Like we have this, the mind has an attachment to an authority voice or an authority figure. The mind is super attracted to that, and it attaches to that really easily. I had to really detach from that tendency of my mind to make the medical professional the answer, and really trust that I might have my own answer. That was really difficult for me, and it is difficult for a lot of other people as well. Like making that, disowning the outside authority and owning inside authority. That's a big shift to make. So those were probably my biggest challenges.
Right. Wonderful. Wonderful. So Ritika says, awesome, ma'am. And more power to you.
Thank you, and to you.
So the next question is, how important do you think that mindset is and mental well-being in the journey to reverse the disease?
I think it's critical. I think it's absolutely critical. Our minds are a wellspring of power that is largely untapped in the human experience. And if we can learn to just harness that even a little bit, we can get massive changes. So the more practiced you get with um, how you use your mind rather than how your mind uses you, the more practiced you can get at that, uh, you can absolutely do anything. Like that is your limitlessness resource right there.
Yeah. Also, it is said like mind is like a horse. If you can't control the horse will run in random directions. So is the
Yes,
mind, right? So
yes.
you
I
you
have
should know.
horses, so I know that's true.
Okay, so we should control the horse, otherwise that horse will control you,
Yes, that's
moving into
100%
the
true.
random directions.
Yeah, I mean,
Giving,
the mind is operating all the time anyway. Most people don't know how it operates, and so if you don't learn how it operates and then harness its operations in a manner that produces the results that you want, results of this programming situation that it's been running on for 10,000 years. And so so if it's not producing good results, you're not without hope there. You can start to learn about the mind and how it works to start getting it to work for you. You'll never run out of things to do.
yeah, wonderful, amazing. So once again, yes, believe, faith, and trust.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
actually matters. Charlene here says, I love that point about the attachment to authority that we have, that our minds have. Thank you for that.
Yes.
And
Yes.
great for Vishali.
Good.
Okay, so the next question is, were there some like moments of doubts or setbacks, and how did you motivate yourself during that time? If yes,
Mm. Well, I always had doubt because I didn't know whether it would work, but I really was at a point where I had no other options. Um, so I didn't know whether this would work. So I proceeded the entire way with doubt. Um, and and how did I motivate myself? I was motivated by the results. First of all, it was the first time I'd heard that kind of information, and so that was pretty exciting to me that I had, some options within myself to reflect the health that I wanted. Um, and so after about 3 weeks, when I started to notice that watching my thoughts and stopping negative thoughts actually had an effect that I could feel in my own body. So, for instance, when I first started doing this, I was in so much pain that I would have to really think about when I woke up in the morning. If I got up and walked across the room, would I be able to get back? So that was my first thought when I woke up in the morning because it was so painful.
yeah,
And then after 3 weeks, I had no problems getting up in the morning and doing everything I needed to do. So it was a significant change. So when you're doing something and you get such direct and profound results, that's motivation. And you can't unsee that, and you can't unfeel it. And so when I knew that I was, possibly on the right track,
yeah,
that was motivation for me. And then even when the doctor said, like, don't, you can't do that. That's not going to work, and you're going to die, and all that kind of stuff. uh, I had to overcome that.
wonderful. So I've got a question here. I'm not sure whether it is related to it.
Mm.
Is there any possibility of reversing sensory neural hearing loss?
Yes. Yes. There's a lot of strategies that you can use for different things. Um, and really, so if you think about why the hearing loss happened, there's damage to the cells. You have you have influence over how those cells operate and replicate, even when they're damaged. So I was told that I would have all sorts of different problems after I eliminated after the tumors were all gone. Um, because I had so many surgeries, they said I would be, clogged up with scar tissue, and different systems in my body weren't going to operate properly.
Yeah,
None of that has proven to be true. They can't find scar tissue. So you have the ability to influence your cells no matter where they are. And so there's different techniques to do those kinds of things. Like if you look at the world of qigong, which is one of the branches of traditional Chinese medicine, it has 5 branches. Attention and intention are one of those branches. Why? Because of the observer effect on the atomic level of cells. Atoms aren't really what we learn in high school with these little nucleuses and a neatly spinning electron going on. It really is a batch of chaos until we look at it, and then it starts to become uniform. So why is that important? That means that whatever we put our attention on is what makes it real or makes it uniform. So I would say if you have a hearing loss, put your attention inside your ear and just imagine that it is perfectly functioning. You can even put your hand over it because your hand holds a lot of energy. Put your hand over your ear and then close your eyes and imagine the inside of your ear working perfectly. And again, also watch your thoughts, because there's something probably in your programming that has produced that effect. This also works on injuries. I broke my back a few years ago, or several years ago, and I was told I would never ride horses again. I was told a whole bunch of things that would never happen again. And when I left the hospital, they had me pretty drugged up in the hospital, which I didn't need. And they sent me home with a whole bunch of painkillers, which I didn't need. I just threw them out. And I used this process to fix my back, which is, I can do everything they told me I couldn't do before. So it works with injury, it works with anything. But for your hearing, with your hearing challenge, put your hand over your ear and imagine, see the effect of your hand on your ear. Your hand holds a lot of energy in it.
Yeah.
And then see the inside of your ear working perfectly. The neurons are working perfectly. The hearing is perfect. You can pick up things other people can't pick up. Make it an emotional and visual and intentional experience. And if you do that over and over again, I'd be surprised if you don't notice a difference.
Wow. Even when this is something called energy healing. When we use our hands and put them on your ear,
Yeah.
and you just transfer the energy.
Yes, your hands hold a lot of power. And so
Yeah.
even when you do breathing exercises in Qigong and you can feel your fingers start to tingle, it's because there's a lot of stuff happening in your hands.
Yeah.
And even if you put your hand on your own heart, or if somebody touches you in a way when they have really good energy, you can feel that transfer of energy.
Yeah.
So why not use it on your own ear?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So Vaishali says you are actually a miracle woman.
Yes, you too. We all are. Yes. And I think we should live that more, that we should live that experience that we were made to be more.
Yeah.
And I like that Prashant is the miracle mindset coach. My tagline for my business is be the miracle. We should be that more. Yeah.
Yeah. Niritika says more power to you always, ma'am.
Thank you. And you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so a wonderful question again. What advice would you give to someone who's just starting his journey to reverse a disease?
I would say, first of all, know that it's possible. Um, and then I would say, really understand how the mind works and how your mind is working and how your personal program is working, because there's likely something in there that's not working in your favor, but that doesn't mean that it can't. It just means that you have to get more used to using your mind rather than your mind's default programming using you. And I think really this is an invitation to become more proactive in a lot of areas that we're not accustomed to. It's not just being more proactive about diet or more proactive about exercise, but more proactive about, like, how am I responding to my everyday world? Am I responding mostly negative? Am I responding mostly with protection? Do I experience unconditional love and uncaused joy in my life? And if not, why not? There's something standing in between me and that then. And what is that? And can I eliminate it?
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. So Debbie says, I can vouch for Patricia healing her back. Within 7 weeks, she was walking better and she had less pain. I was there with her.
Okay.
Wow, that's amazing. So, but there's another question. How did your social support system contribute to your success?
um, I had very little social support. I know a lot of people think that they need to rely on other people for things, but really, I think we don't rely on ourselves enough. And let's see. Um, I I did have some social support, but I didn't even understand what I was doing, so it was hard for other people to understand what I was doing. Um, um, I couldn't explain it even because it's such an internal experience at first, and now I can explain it a little bit better. But at the time, I was an embryo in this work as well, and so to explain something that was happening on the inside that was so um, internal, I really had trouble with that. So that's maybe why I didn't have a bunch of social support. And it was new to me and even newer to other people at the time. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. Exactly. When you face some new challenge, and somebody has given the time, like 3 to 6 months,
yeah,
again the mindset goes, oh my God, what's happening?
yeah. And then people want to. I think we're again programmed to respond with fear. So you only have 3 to 6 months to live. Shouldn't you fight harder?
Yeah.
And I think the whole business of battling cancer and fighting cancer and cancer being the enemy, I think that's a fear response. And so if we can do something a little bit more thoughtful and a little bit more quiet, it's not, cancer isn't the enemy. Cancer is an indication that your body wants you to listen to something and do
Yeah.
something differently. So if you can adopt that, like, what is my body telling me? Why can't I hear out of this ear? Why did cancer develop here? What is my body telling me? If you take that approach rather than the battling approach, you'll get a lot farther, in my opinion.
Yeah. Exactly. It is always said that your body is a miracle, and if there is any disease, it's a warning to you. Your body is giving, like,
Yeah.
just be cautious, or attention, or
Yes.
alarm to
Yes.
take an action.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, it's the end result of something that's already been happening. So
Yeah.
if you can change that thing that's already been happening, you get a different end result.
Yeah. That's right. Wonderful. So, okay. The question is, any advice for them who are skeptical about holistic methods for, like, disease reversal?
Um, Anybody who's skeptical, let's see. I would say look at your results. If you're getting the results that you want, don't change a thing. If you're not getting the results that you want, then it's time to change something that you're doing. And so this is just one way to do that. So your results will always prove your point or your theory. And if they're not, then you might need a different theory.
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. What do you think? What are the misconceptions or myths you encountered during the disease reversal?
What are the misconceptions?
Yeah.
Um, I would say that um, conventional medicine is the answer. Is one misconception. Um, and it can be the answer for a lot of different things. It just wasn't and isn't for a lot of people, especially with cancer, chronic diseases, that kind of thing. It's missing. It's missing that chunk of information about the cause piece and how we can influence our own bodies to get different results. So it doesn't have to come from this outside source. It doesn't have to come from somebody with a white coat, and it doesn't have to come from a university degree or a hospital. So I would say that's the biggest misconception, is that shift of power from outside sources and conventional medicine to where it used to be for like thousands of years, and that's our own system.
Yeah.
And anybody can learn it. Like if we learned this from kindergarten, it would be a different world.
Amazing. So the next one, okay. What do you think about the chemo? Like, a lot of people go for chemo.
Mhm. Um, I can't really tell somebody not to go for chemotherapy. But again, um, if you're addressing cancer, for instance, only at the level of cancer, you're missing out on a whole slew of information that came before that. And so if you're getting chemotherapy to kill cancer cells, which is the aim of chemotherapy, and still pouring in the ingredients that caused the cancer to begin with, then you might be selling yourself short. So is it going to be enough? And in many, many, many cases, as has been proven over the last decades, it's not enough.
Yeah, because chemo kills not only the cancer cells but the good cells also.
Yes. So
Right?
yeah, be careful what you're killing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're killing the
Chemo,
messenger, really. Yeah.
yeah. Chemo doesn't know which cell to kill.
Right. Right.
Right?
Yeah. And it's it can be so devastating on the body that it has lifelong effects that are difficult to live with for some people. Um, Again, I can't say whether somebody should or shouldn't take a medical procedure.
Yeah.
Uh, but I can say that if you're only addressing a problem at the problem level and not the cause of the problem, you may not be getting the best results for you.
Yeah.
Many of my clients do double duty, like they proceed with conventional medicine and have the chemotherapy, and they
Mm.
do the work of um, you know the mental and emotional and other work that we do in my programs, and they get really, really, really good results, and sometimes way faster than even doctors recommend or would
Wow.
expect. Yeah.
Amazing. Do you think that visualization or meditation can help in that?
Yes. So here's the thing about meditation. Meditation allows you to have that exercise of your brain or your mind that makes it easy to be both concentrated and open. So that convergence and divergent piece that the mind is capable of, it makes it more supple. So it's easier to use, and you do get higher levels of awareness when you do meditate. I've been meditating for 30 years or more than 30 years now, and I wouldn't live without it. Um, but the thing, when you're facing a diagnosis, especially like if you're told stage 4 or something like that, the thing about meditation is it does raise awareness, which is good, but it might not be quick enough for you to get the work done that you need to do in order to reverse the disease. And so in qigong we use recordings, um, and I have some on my website if anybody cares to go and look. We have these little recordings that so you raise your awareness, and then you start to program a different way of being, which is really powerfully empowering thoughts and emotions to get your body up level to be um, delivering the chemicals from that high power position to the cells of your body. And so when you do that over and over and over again, your body just raises up quite a bit more quickly than just regular meditation does by itself, and produces chemicals a lot faster and a lot more powerfully than just meditation by itself. So I love meditation. Wouldn't give it up if anybody tried to convince me. But in a case of a severe diagnosis, it just might not be quick enough.
A person who, or who goes for meditation can't leave it forever.
No, 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 no. I agree.
Wonderful. So we have a question from Subrajit. How does bad eating habits contribute to cancer?
I think I think if you have bad eating habits, it's indicative of um, something a little deeper. If I say that I love myself, and then um, so for instance, if I have a dog and I say I love my dog, but I don't feed my dog, or I don't feed my dog good food, do I really love my dog? It's the same with my body. If I say that I love myself and I have a poor diet, um, then do I really love myself? And probably not.
Yeah.
So is it the bad diet or is it that I don't love myself that's contributing to the cancer, or is it both? I think the I don't love myself is the bigger contributor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. So thank you so much, Shubhajit, for that question. It
Yes.
was amazing.
Yes.
How can we track or measure the progress while working on reversing the cancer or any disease?
Uh, so first of all, you'll know how you feel, and it can be quite dramatic. And secondly, go get tested. Like that's what I did for the first while. I got tested. I think I'm going to say every 3 months. It might be off a little bit. And now I still get tested like about every 4 years. I'll go and get my blood run and stuff like that. Um, but you can get that confirmation from the medical side of what you're doing on the internal side,
Okay.
and you won't be able to mistake the feeling. The feeling is unmistakable,
Yeah,
and
body
and
speaks.
even the way you look will be
Yeah,
different. Yeah.
your body speaks a lot.
Yes. 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 And then when your body is developing disease, there's quite a bit of a different feeling than when it's developing extreme health.
Yeah.
Uh,
So another question from Subhajit: can cancer be reversed if found in third stage?
yes, yes, even fourth stage. Yeah, I've had it.
Wow,
I've had a few clients just this past year come out of fourth stage.
amazing.
Hmm.
So, friends, again, it's really a miracle session. If you really want to know how it is possible, then connect with Patricia, and I'm sure that you will actually experience the miracle.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's what I aim for. Yes, and be the miracle. Like not just a miracle isn't something outside of yourself. A miracle is who we are.
yeah, wonderful.
Yes.
Okay, so I think it can be also a good question. The question is, what do you think that the importance of sleep can
Mm.
actually play a wonderful role in reversing the disease?
Uh, yes. Um, so I know people say that you should have 7 or 8 hours of sleep a night, and so then what happens when we don't have enough sleep? It Then we start to think that's a bad thing. So oh, I'm really tired. We start to tell ourselves, I'm tired. I didn't have enough sleep. Oh no, my sleep habits are terrible. So is it the sleep, or is it what we tell ourselves about the sleep? I don't like rigid patterns when it comes to instructions about health. Like you should only eat this, or you should only eat that, or you should sleep 7 or 8 hours a night. Yes, sleep is a restorative piece of the puzzle. Uh, but what happens, like happens to all of us every so often? What if we don't get enough sleep? Then we start to beat ourselves up about, oh, I'm not serving my body well if I don't get enough sleep. So what I do when I don't get enough sleep is I just say, well, I guess I must have had enough sleep. The end. So I don't. Yes, sleep is important, but so it's also more important that you don't beat yourself up if you don't get enough of it, or if you don't follow a certain pattern. And again, we're all individuals too. So I don't sleep as much as some other people sleep, and that just works for me. Some people have to sleep more. Like teenagers typically have to sleep way more than the rest of us, and so they do. So to say you need a set time, like every person needs a set time of sleep. It's a little bit true, but watch what you tell yourself about sleep. Don't be rigid. Rigidity is not your friend.
Okay, wonderful. So, again, there is a message from Subrajit. Love the session and amazing knowledge.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Prashant and Patricia, ma'am, for this amazing and knowledgeable session. Hope this must be repeated again.
Ah,
For sure, we'll find out the ways. And
thank
thank
you
you,
so
both
much.
of you, from Vishali.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so another question is, I only have like two more questions. The first is, what message. One moment. Okay, what was the impact of your emotional well-being on your journey?
Good question. It was it was it was profound. I would say my emotional well-being before, just because of the way I grew up, was very volatile, uh, and the way I responded to my world was very volatile. Uh, just because of the way I was trained in my growing up years. So then I had to learn the impact of my emotions on how my cells operate and replicate. And that was enough for me to take a pause and say, do I really need to do that? Do I really need to feel that? And again, it detached me from this pattern of behavior and this pattern of emotional behavior that I had. So that I could really take a look at it and make decisions instead of run by programming everything in my emotional life. So I'm a lot more calm than I used to be. I'm a lot more measured than I used to be. I have a lot more joy than I used to have. I had no joy before. I didn't even laugh before. I didn't know how to cry. I didn't know how to laugh, and I had a lot of emotional volatility. And now I feel joy much of the day. I laugh all the time, and I cry at just about everything. So it really did have the most profound effect, uh, and thankfully so.
It's good to see you smiling here, being here in the show.
Thank you, thank you. Good to be here.
Okay, the last question of the session is any final tip or any message to anyone who will be starting his journey or will be watching this video later?
Uh, I would say really understand that you have the power to operate your body in the most amazing way, um, all by yourself. You don't need to add anything. You don't need to subtract anything. You just need to learn how your mind works and learn how to work it to your advantage. Learn how your emotions work and learn how to work them to your advantage. And really, I would say evaluate yourself to see if you're getting the results that you want. Like, uh, is what I'm doing, instead of like being so attached to sleep, for instance, like I should sleep 7 or 8 hours a day, uh, is what I'm doing, like being so attached to that thing, producing the results that I want. So really evaluate your results and then figure out where you can make some changes to get different results.
Wonderful. So, friends, I'm sure that you've got a lot of learning in the session. And now, as we are now just wrapping up this enlightening session, I actually want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you who joined us tonight. Your curiosity, engagement, and presence actually have made this conversation truly special. A massive thank you goes to our incredible guest speaker, Patricia Loff. Patricia, your journey, insights, and resilience have left an incredible mark on all of us. Your openness to share your experience of reversing disease is not only inspiring, but serves as a guiding light for a lot of people. To our audience, remember that the journey to better health is unique for every one of us. And Patricia has generously shared her wisdom, but your path may look different, and that's perfectly okay. So
Mhm.
take what resonates, ask questions, and continue exploring the possibilities for your own well being. And if you want to connect with Patricia, then I'll mention her details in the description box once the session will be over. So you can connect with her, you can get some light, you can learn a lot from her. And obviously, it's always better to learn from someone who has gone through the experience.
Mhm.
So thank you once again for being a part of this transformative session. And stay inspired, stay curious, and remember, your health journey is a personal adventure worth investing in. So that's it. Thank you so much, Patricia, once again for
Thank you
being
so
here.
much. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Sujata says it was a wonderful session and motivating one. I'll be forwarding this link to one of my friends who is undergoing this disease. Thank you so much.
Beautiful, Sajatha.
Right. So thank you so much once again,
Thank
Patricia,
you.
for being here. So friends, we are now signing off. Take care and stay healthy. See you next week with a new topic and a new speaker. Till then, stay healthy. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank
Namaste.
you. Namaste.